Hiya! So, this is me talking a bit about my background, where I come from, how I grew up, what I did, what happened to me, what goes on with my life until today. And I grew up in the late 70s and in the 80s and in the 90s. In rural southwest Norway. I would say I had a very good upbringing, all things considered. I was to discover that I was schizophrenic, that I was to discover that I was actually born schizophrenic when I was 35. That's when I discovered I was actually born schizophrenic from the conceiving of me. So that would explain some of the more disturbing, bothering, gruesome thoughts, mind constructs that I carried from very early on. Thoughts, very disturbing thoughts from I was like 7 or 8 years old, and having very advanced, nasty kind of thoughts and mind constructs of mine. But I did not have vocabulary or the trust to speak about it. I thought that, okay, this is something that everybody goes through, and it's normal, it's okay, it doesn't, I thought that it was just like something everybody experiences from what I was going through, of gruesome hallucinations or thought conspiracies, or pictures of the head, pictures in the mind, when I was just a young kid. Anyways, this would indicate for me later on, after I was 35, discovering myself and looking back to then and realizing that I was actually showing clear signs of schizophrenia in my preteens, when I was like 7 or 8 or 9 years old, and I would show clear signs of schizophrenia already then. I could go back in the timeline of my life and dissect and investigate and clear out points and understand myself into the totality of who I have been and my living, upbringing, everything, and so on. So I was born in 78. Had a very good growing up, all things considered. If you look at how some people actually do grow up to this day. Although I was not suited for the ordinary school, when I look back at it now, I think that school was perhaps the one thing that did me most harm. With all the bullying, all the ignorance, and all the neglect, and all the lies, and all the sublime, the undercurrent, the words that are hanging in the air that we're not speaking about from growing up in school. For instance, such a topic as sexual education, which is a very, very important part of growing up, to learn such a thing in theory and in to consider such a thing. All those things, all those topics, those words that were just like hanging in the air like balloons and letters, that were not addressed hardly ever, and such and such and such and such. Going out of elementary school when I was 16, I was very much a wreck. I couldn't call myself anything else than a wreck, emotionally, and in polarities, and of mind, and of bullying, and harassment, and sexually confused, and addicted, and lost, and confused, and angry at the world and everything. Going out of elementary school when I was 16, very much a total wreck. Then, wondering what shall I study now, what shall I do with school, what shall I do with my life. Just following the flow of people going further in their education and so on. I had at this point driven myself so far into conspiring thinking and playing games in my mind, playing games in my head, which is something we're not either addressed. I mean, why are we not told at school to this day about our mind consciousness system? Why are we not taught about mind consciousness system? Why not? In school, properly. So anyways, I go out of school when I was 16, and things are very much of total mess of my insides, and my living is like chaos. Everything is just chaos. It is 1994, and my life is a chaos. Plain and simple. And when I was 18, I would start to drink lots, and later I would do more drugs, and build upon those old addictions to the adrenaline ride of doing something that was not allowed. I would build upon those steps, those stairs, that ladder of what was not allowed, and what was adrenaline seeking for me, seeking the adrenaline, seeking the energy rush of doing something else, feeling that I could accomplish something. And through all of this, having various through this starting drinking and doing drugs, I would keep in back of my mind many episodes and suppression and denials of things the events that had occurred with me, things that were bothering for me, childhood, innocence, whatever, memories, emotional memories, nightmares, long advanced nightmares, and literally a schizophrenic mind evolving as I was maturing then. And I would live more as I started drinking and smoking. I would experience more and more that I could see and sense the metaphysical level of my mind. I could sense like that I could sense that I had personalities, that there was polarities involved. There's all these energies, pictures involved, and yeah, and I would addict to these energies, like crave these particular energies like it was fucking whatever. I would need those energies in whatever form, if it was sex, if it was whatever it was, I would crave those energies and seek those energies to have that fulfillment of getting drunk or sex or whatever. and addicting to energies, addicting to the experience within myself, in my mind, of the polarity of the energy high, of the energy. Today I look upon this as something very, very, very mathematical, and I see that it's basically just a polarity play, a polarity personality play of the positive high and the negative low, where the positive high is where we seek fulfillment and whatever ego or beliefs or thoughts or opinions, while the negative low is like the low, the negative, the dark, the depressive, the consequence. And it's a polarity. It's a fucking polarity, and you cannot mathematically have one without the other. It doesn't work like that. So anyways, that is something I learned later about polarity, personality, play. I would spend many times in and out of psychiatric hospital. I think my first time in hospital was in 2003. Since then, I've spent many hours and many a night in psychiatric hospital, taking drugs and talking to shrinks. And although they would diagnose me with schizophrenia, none of the doctors were able to explain to me what is schizophrenia and why am I schizophrenic. No doctor was able to explain to me what is schizophrenia and why am I schizophrenic, where does this illness comes from it at all. Yeah. And that is quite a message to be thrown in one's face. You're schizophrenic, but we're not able to explain to you what the fuck it is. So it's rather disturbing, put it gently. Rather disturbing. Not before after I found out through dimensions at equaf.com. I was to discover that schizophrenia. I was to discover and learn what schizophrenia is, how it operates, what it does, and also some of my why I am schizophrenic. This was, of course, later on. So, from 1999 or 2000, from that start of the millennia, I was drinking lots and doing lots of drugs and escaping, generally just escaping from the whatever reality. And I would create all sorts of advanced and not advanced energy worlds and alternative realities for myself. I was quite a successful artist, and some would say that I still am. I was very addicted to the polarity, to the play, to the voice in the head. I had lots of voice in the head and hallucinations as such as of the symptoms of schizophrenia, which is what I talked to the doctor about, symptoms only, basically. Because we were not able to get down to the real nitty-gritty background of what is schizophrenia. Not until later on was I able to discover that. And of course, I'm not blaming the doctors or my parents or the nurses or whatever. They were not told otherwise. They were not told the clean and clear definition of schizophrenia. I know the definition of schizophrenia. I can give it to you. Schizophrenia is when there is 2 or 3 personalities that are active in one's mind at once. 2 or 3 polarity personalities that are active and then having a fucking war in the head of trying to govern the me. 2 or 3 personalities that are active at once, trying to govern me and have a war in my head about governing me as personalities. That and from that war in the head, there is hallucinations, there is pain, there is noise, voices, there is all sorts of bother and pain and sickness and symptoms from this personality constructs. That, my friend, is the definition, easy peasy definition of schizophrenia. So, I would spend many times in and out of hospitals. I would addict to be at hospitals because I would need that clean bed, warm shower, good food, whatever. From going from party to party in the city where I lived, always partying, always drinking, always doing the most extreme thing, always. And just sabotaging myself, sabotaging life because I knew nothing else than to take medication, have medication. I knew very little else other than to medicate myself with what was available. So in 2012, my game changed totally. This was after about a very intense ride, journey through Amsterdam, Copenhagen, and also some places in Germany where I would visit and just party the fuck out of myself and do all these wrong things, and at this point I was barely alive. I was so deprived and so ill and so fucked up mentally. I was really driven myself beyond. So my dad orders a plane ticket for me from Copenhagen to Norway, to Stavanger, and this is then the New Year's between 11 and 2012, and in 2012 January I start my process. I learn more and more from Destiny, from Destiny Forum, from demonology. I learn about feelings and emotions. What are feelings and what are emotions? I learn about thoughts. What are thoughts? Where do thoughts come from? Why do we have thoughts? I learn about memories. What are memories? How does memory create themselves? What are memories based on? What does memory do to ourselves in a living? How does memory affect us? I learn about personalities and polarities of energy play in the head, of the energies of mind. I learn about personalities, about personality constructs, about behavior, about patterns that I live in my psychology of me, in the psychology of me. I learn about patterns that I live in the psychology of being Tormod. I learned about beliefs, how beliefs can very easily limit one from living one's better potential. I learned about how beliefs and personalities and opinions and hope and desire and all these things that have been vital part in the understanding of psychology. All these different phenomena. Within this, I would learn through the usage of self-forgiveness to forgive myself, through utilizing self-forgiveness on myself, on my physical, and becoming responsible. I would gain more and more self-confidence, more and more self-trust, self-responsibility, and self-honesty. And since 2012, I have been walking my process, Destiny process, correcting myself and becoming responsible, becoming more physical, becoming real, not just being lost in a fling in the head, because that's not real. I've learned so much from my emotions. I've learned that to understand and to learn something, I mean, one's greatest challenges and one's greatest was person that I find most difficult can be one's greatest teacher in life, because they impact one. And yeah, that is a really interesting topic, to understand something and to learn. How do we understand? How do we learn? And why do we intellectualize everything today? Like we have to have everything on a right or wrong definition. There is no right and there is no wrong. There is no good or evil. There is only what is best for all. And that is quite a cool thing to investigate. And I encourage you to do so. I mean, obviously there is no hell or there is no heaven and God and such. It's only us humans making things complicated for ourselves. And that is why I walk today proudly to say the tools of destiny, to simplify things, to simplify living, to become physical, to become real, to become self-honest, responsible, to stand as example, to lead, to be a good example, to love my neighbor, do the good things in life. It's really incredible how that is possible to change. I mean, yeah. So, for me today, looking back, I don't blame my parents, I don't blame the doctors or anybody. We are all individuals in a big puzzle of life, and we all have different programming, different walks of life. And there is no possible way for me to change you. If you want to change, you must be that change yourself. And if I want to change, I must be that change myself. And I want to bring that message across, because I would want to change, and because I want to see the world change. So because I want to change my inside, from deep within my mind, my dark mind and my secret mind and my conscious, unconscious, and all these deeper dimensions, quantum physical and quantum mind, all these things considered. So it's quite intriguing, and but also very rewarding to walk this process of life, to become life, and to realize self, to live my full potential, to do unto others as I want done unto myself, to live the self-honest living. We are more and more doing so, I might gladly say. And so I'm grateful for growing up in Norway with the golden ticket of social democracy, considering all the other places I could have grown up, which could have been so much worse, and all these things. Grateful for being alive today, for having my breathing, for having opportunities, and seeing that the world actually is changing. We are gradually waking up to see that, okay, this life have been in fucking reverse, dude. Yes, it has. It has been in fucking reverse for a very long time. And that is not underestimate. It has been in reverse. It has been the opposite of living. It has been depriving. You know, and we know this. This is so fucking obvious. But we need to I feel need to emphasize that we see this now. We see that our mind is making a whatever whale in front of our eyes. we see that our box, our thinking is limiting us, our beliefs are limiting us. We know all this more and more and more, and that is really something else to witness and experience, and you know, like, just sense and become honest about such a stand. So, yeah, just briefly about schizophrenia, about me growing up, where I am, how I got here. I must say that I'm very grateful today for living in a Campbell village, for living in, look at that amazing picture right here. This is my beingness signature. My beingness signature. How cool is that? Anyways, I'm very grateful for living in this Campbell village in southwest Norway. I mean, life here is just, I love my life here. I mean, it's my effort. It's brought me here. It's me pushing through, walking those miles, speaking to myself, developing self-communication, forgiving the many corners and nitty-gritty details of me, sounding self-forgiveness, working on myself, not giving up, getting back up. If I fall, and I hit my head hard, and I get up again, and I fall on my back, and I get up again, and I continue working, walking, speaking, sounding self-forgiveness to forgive each and every possible, imaginable part of what I am and what I have been. You might say it's a big job, but somebody has to do it, and it's an honor. It's a fucking honor. So, very grateful for living in this village, and very excited about life today, about life, what life throws at me or serves me, or you know, like how that all takes place, and some of my story. If you have questions or considerations or opinions or whatever, feel free to ask me. We must be there for each other. We must care for each other. That is what this life is about, very much. So, thank you, and enjoy.